Hey folks, Critical Thinker on this Soiling Green Tuesday with just a quick follow up and just some thoughts from the hip. Just a quick follow up. This is a peer reviewed study and I'm going to leave a link to this because there's a chock full of data in here that you might want to refer to. Basically, peer-reviewed study shows vaccinated children have a 700% higher chance of neurodevelopmental disorder. 700. Not 7, not 17, not 70. I mean, this goes on and on and on. I will definitely leave a link to this, but that was just a quick follow-up on an article that I wanted to cover but did not, because it relates. And this also really is just a follow-up, but there's a couple things in here that triggered just a rant. Not a rant, just some thoughts. Pennsylvania proposes mandatory vaccinations bill, and remember yesterday I did a piece on there's 134 new bills proposed by 35 different states. So there's a lot coming to a amphitheater near you. You might call it a hall of legislature. I call it an amphitheater. And I'll tell you, before I read this first sentence, which is the butt of my riff, is this law and how it reads, notwithstanding any rule or regulation to the contrary, a strong moral or ethical conviction similar to a religious belief may not qualify as an exemption from the immunization requirements of this section. Should the bill pass, it will take effect within just 60 days, which I don't know if that's fast-tracked, or usually it takes a while, the next legislative cycle. I think. I'm probably wrong. 4 senators, all Democrats. These names crack me up in a way. Dalen Leach, Lawrence Farnese, Sharif Street, who I think Philadelphia had a mayor one time, Mayor Street, John Street, and Bob Mensch. They joined forces. They formed a little band, which will strip Pennsylvanians of the right to say no to a vaccine that they believe will harm their child. I want you to appreciate that, because I'm telling you, for you parents out there, what's your line in the sand, man? What is it going to be? I seriously, what are you going to do? And I've been through this. I was not allowed to graduate high school, as I've stated. Vaccines were my wake-up call. I was 17, and not to make a long story out of it, I was shuffled. I wasn't shuffled. I had gone back and forth, parents divorced, gone back and forth between parents through high school. Long story short, medical records got lost along the way. In Jersey at the time, where I was going to school, state law required that I had to have a full list, a full medical record. And basically they wanted me to get completely revaccinated. I said no. They kept me out of school. About 20 days later, and I was keeping up with the work because I wanted to graduate on time. About 20 days later, knock on the door, CPS, nice 20-25 minute interview, sent her on her way, a nice woman. But so I have experience in this stuff and how this works, because you know that they implement programs through incrementalism. They know that they can't just beat Americans over the heads with dumb ideas. We're going to push back. So you might think, and you might read this and you say to yourself, well, kids. Well, yeah, first it's kids. See, first it was California, okay? SB 277 was passed with their mandates. Now it's national. Now it's the kids. And you don't think you're going to be next? You don't think they're developing 50, 60, 70, not only new vaccines, but new and improved ways to inoculate you with them? And food and air is a great unknown delivery system. Maybe not always accurate, but definitely vast. Um, so here's the thing, though. I mean, I'm almost liking my chances, like balled up at home with a couple of AR-15s against a dozen deputies. I got maybe a 30-40% chance, right? But I know my chances up here, they're 700% more. I don't like those odds. Those are not good odds. So, what is going to be your line in the sand? This has to be it. If it's not, then you might as well go to a FEMA camp right now. You know, at least you'll get a top bunk, right? So, this is what kind of the concept of a state imposing mandatory anything upon its people should seem atrocious to most freedom-loving Americans. And really that right there encapsulates sort of my entire government philosophy. I'm a libertarian at heart. Do your thing, I'll do mine. No victim, no crime. But the relationship has completely shifted. Whereas my take, and I'm 45 years old, so I was taught from 5th grade civics classes and social science classes is the nitty-gritty, the nuts and bolts of how government functions, the three bodies, how a law is passed, etc., etc. The formation of it all. We were taught that. I don't think in the last 25 or 30 years that has been taught. And that's why there's been a complete polarization of the relationship between the individual and government. It used to be the individual, everything derives from the individual, the community, then it goes to the community, then it goes to local, then state, and if need be, okay, if we decide to call the Fed in, not that the Fed just steps in with a big boot, but that's the relationship. Individual first and then work its way outward. Not this complete opposite where we are subjects to the Fed and then the state and then the local and then we just have to react and survive. No. And I think that's in part and parcel there are a multitude of reasons, but part and parcel fundamentally there's been a huge shift in the manner in which people view the relationship between the individual and government. So, I don't know. I think that might in part be part of the real problem in the divide. There's a philosophical divide. So, anyway, actually, you know what? While I got you, I just wanted to cover this. And if you're in the medical field, or you work in a dentist office, or you're just a germaphobe maybe, you know, because you know what skeeves me out now is having to, every time I transact, because I don't really pull out cash that often, I have to touch a keyboard, and that skeeves me out. You know, door handles, all that shit, whatever. Whatever. My immune system is strong. I'm not a germaphobe. However, a lot of people have come to just sort of habituate themselves to rubbing a little bit of it in, and maybe you should reconsider that. Using hand sanitizer causes you to absorb 10,000 times % more emasculation chemicals that feminize men. Hand sanitizer causes the skin to absorb 100 times more of the hormone-disrupting chemical bisphenol A, according to a study conducted by researchers from the University of Missouri. BPA exposure came from handling receipts printed on thermal paper. I stopped taking receipts when I first learned that, like 7 years ago. Just say no. Again, that is an action that you can take to not expose yourself. No, I don't want the receipt, thank you. You know what's funny though? You get a receipt for every transaction in America. They force it on you, but you can't get a receipt for your transaction when you vote. You can't get a little paper thing so if there's a recount, Anyway, I digress. Our research found that large amounts of BPA can be transferred to your hands and then to the food you hold and eat, as well as be absorbed through your skin. Levels high enough to cause disease. BPA exhibits hormone-like properties and has been proven to cause reproductive defects in fetuses, infants, children, and adults, as well as cancer, metabolic, and immune problems in rodents. BPA from thermal papers will be absorbed into your blood rapidly. At those levels, many diseases such as diabetes and disorders such as obesity increase as well. So again, and I'm going to go back to it all the time, intent. If they know all this stuff is, I mean, we're getting bombarded, man. We are getting bombarded. That's why I say half of this, not all of it, can be a completely human intent. There is a non-human element attached to this. I truly feel that. I truly feel that. So what happens? 90 minutes after handling receipts, the average participant had blood and urine levels of 20 micrograms BPA per gram creatinine, levels that have been previously associated with increased risk of heart disease and type 2 diabetes. So participants who had previously used hand sanitizer had blood and urine levels 100 times higher than those who had not used the chemicals. So just drop this toxic sanitizer. Do yourself a favor. If you're in the medical field, why don't you just keep like a solution of like hot water and a little bleach or some rubbing alcohol and just rehabituate yourself, you know? And I imagine you're doing it every time you go from patient to patient. If you're a doctor or a nurse's aide or you work in any medical field, I would say those are probably the most people who would be habituated to using this. So just please stop it. Reconsider, man. Rehabituate yourself. It's not that difficult. If you like this, give it a thumbs up and share it. If you don't, I understand. Leave a comment after your thumbs down. Thanks a lot.